So that's what's coming up next on the program. Arturo Galansino, director of the Strozzi Museum, yes, or Foundation.
As you want.
Fondazione Strozzi.
As you want.
It is originally studied at the University of Milan and went on to do his PhD in Torino before doing postdoc studies in Paris, where he started his professional career working at the Louvre. Then he moved to London, which is why his English is outrageously good, and where he worked at the National Gallery and then at the Royal Academy. And then finally, 9 years ago, he returned to France. Where are you from originally?
I'm from Torino.
From Torino, okay. So he came to France to take up his current role.
Esattamente. It's easier to say Torino, but yeah, I'm from the countryside.
Sì,
yeah.
Dobbiamo parlare torinese in questo caso. Anyhow, so most welcome to tell us all about Strozzi. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon, and congratulations for all this amazing program that you are organizing here at the Institute. Is really remarkable and it was interesting and very fun. So that's great. I'm very glad to be here with you, with the British and non-British friends. And Simon asked me to speak about something related to our exhibition program. I couldn't choose. So in a very maximalistic way, I will speak about everything we did in the last 9 years. So basically, it's an introduction about the strategies of the Fondazione Palazzo Strozzi and its role in the cultural and Florentine environment. I don't know if you are familiar with the Fondazione Palazzo Strozzi. We would like to think about ourselves not really like a museum, of course, more like an exhibition space, but even better, as a platform for art, culture, and innovation in town, in Florence. We are a dynamic cultural center, and our foundation was founded in 2006, so it's quite recent. We are less than younger than 20 years old. Our program is very various and is spanning from contemporary art to old master, archaeology, modern art, very young artists, experimental exhibition. And in the last 18 years, 17 years, we have organized more than 60 exhibitions with great institutional partnership. One of the unique aspects of the Fondazione Palazzo Strozzi is to be a producer of exhibition entirely independent. We produce all our programs. This is something real unique, and sometimes we partner with some of the most important institutions worldwide, like the Tate, the Louvre, the Victoria and Albert Museum, and many others. One of the shifts of our identity is more recent, because this happened more or less around 2016, when I arrived in 2015 in Florence, and we decided with our board, which is totally independent, to change the identity of Palazzo Strozzi, going toward a more dynamic and contemporary direction. Before 2016, the Palazzo Strozzi program, let's say, was a little bit more classic, especially devoted to old master, especially 19th century art and early 20th century. We wanted to shift toward this contemporary strategy, which for us was very important, also very daring, very brave, because as you probably know, Florence doesn't really have a reputation for being a contemporary art city. We are famous for other reasons, let's say. So, and basically there was a kind of bad reputation about Florence and contemporary art, because some institutions tried to play this card in the past, but it didn't work at all. But we were convinced that this was the right moment to try it, for many reasons, because I think we were filling a gap in the cultural, Italian cultural offer, you know, an institution able to be engaging and to be accessible to a very broad and large public in the center of Italy, very well connected with many other cities, and offering a program which is totally alternative to what the the mass tourism is looking for in this town. This, as I said, was very brave at the beginning. We were lucky because in these 9 years, 8 years, we worked with the most important living artists worldwide. And all these people, women and men, they were very brave to work with us too, because we didn't have this kind of contemporary tradition. But after the first attempt in the contemporary artwork, we start, let's say that we started very successful, because the first exhibition of contemporary art was Ai Weiwei in 2016, which scored the best result for a contemporary art exhibition ever, which was a great starting point, let's say like that. But this was the proof that going in this direction was right. Was I think a bold but reasonable way of doing, and also was a kind of fresh air for the city itself. We found a lot of enthusiasm for our new program, especially by the younger generation, but not only by them, by the local, but especially by a national. Today, we can say that the core public of Palazzo Strozzi is a national, non-Tuscan, Italian, let's say that, from Milan, Bologna, Rome, Naples, Torino, whatever, people that they find an excuse, a good reason to come back to Florence in our program, in our exhibition. Because as you know, these kind of art cities, such as Florence, Venice, sometimes also Rome, are considered by Italians, a little bit a tourist zone, a place that is, tourist trap is not a place where Italians always want to go. For many reasons, bad reason, because they think that they know already the city, which is not true at all. But especially because they don't want to queue, they don't want to be trapped in this very crowded place, full of army of tourists wandering around with water and camera machine. So basically, we created a new tourism in town. Now we are one of the most attended exhibition space in Europe, the most successful in Italy, and all this thanks to our contemporary art program. So the first, of course, we have to also to choose the right art. We wanted to show to a very general public, sometimes a public that feel a little bit far away the very niche world of contemporary art. Contemporary art could be very difficult to understand. People can sometimes feel contemporary art a little bit crazy or even stupid. So our mission is try to explain this a very accessible way to the broader public, to the larger public, also to the known, to people that they are not very aware about this. So we wanted to engage our public thanks to artists who are able to speak also outside the box, speaking about matters that are important to us, some contemporary issues. That's the reason why, for instance, we started with this great Chinese artist, Ai Weiwei, that, as you know, is an artist, but he is also an activist. And Ai Weiwei was very brave to being the first big contemporary artist to taking over all the entire Palazzo Strozzi, and literally the entire Palazzo Strozzi, because he wanted to install a big installation, a new work on the facade, on two facades of Palazzo Strozzi. This was a kind of scandal in Florence at the time. It was considered a little bit outrageous. It was 2016. Like, unfortunately, this year, 2016, was one of the most tragic years for migration. A lot of people died in the sea. Ai Weiwei, as an activist, as a very politically engaged artist, wanted to tackle this topic, wanted to challenge this topic. And so he wanted to remind us this problem, putting in our face and on the face of Palazzo Strozzi, these raft boats are the same boats that they were used at the time to rescue the migrant in the sea. Well, this was a very highly political installation. At the time, I was a little bit naive because I didn't consider all the, the big scandal that this installation ignited. But at the same time, it was a great success. We were able to speak about a very big topic, a very tragic topic. And this exhibition was really everywhere, not only in the art pages of newspaper, in the cultural pages, but really was a topic of discussion in the most important telegiornali and things like that. This exhibition was a great starting point, not only for these reasons, also because we played in Palazzo Strozzi in another way of installing, another way of curating. First of all, we had for the first time in this incredible Renaissance setting, Palazzo Strozzi is the epitome of the Renaissance building. It's the first Renaissance building, it's the first humanistic building. It's a real masterpiece of architecture. But it's thanks to the contemporary artists that we rediscovered this space. Because before this exhibition, before I went away, all these windows that you can see in the slides, the fireplaces, many Renaissance elements were covered by what we call the fake wall, because as you know, we need wall to install painting. Of course, we cannot, put some nails in the 15th century, in the 15th century wall. So we used to cover these walls and these, with this fake wall. But these windows, these fireplaces were covered for 40 years, 35 years. So basically, people forgot how was the palace. And I way, as a great architect, I was also the architect of the Olympic Stadium in Beijing and many other big architecture. As a great architect, he understood that we had to get the palace naked and to show it back again. Of course, through the lens of contemporary art. The wallpaper, of course, is not Renaissance. Is the wallpaper by Ai Weiwei. And so the sculpture hang on the ceiling. But thanks to the lens of contemporary art, we were able to rediscover, to read again our beautiful Renaissance 15th century architecture. I show you other photos of these incredible installations that were inside the building. Then also to show you also this fireplace was covered and the windows that you see on the other side and so on. So this exhibition was really revealing for us, and of course gave us also the strength and the conviction to go on this path, of this direction. Another thing that we asked to the artists is, of course, to speak about important topics today, but also to challenge our history, our identity, to create a dialogue, like to say, with our past, with our history. And Ai Weiwei, in this case, wanted to reread the Florentine history. As you know, as a political activist, he created these portraits. They were made with the Lego bricks of political activists of the Florentine history, such as Savonarola. Of course, he had some problems with the power. Galileo Galilei, the same. Dante Alighieri was exiled, as you know. And our founder you see on this side, Filippo Strozzi, that, as you know, he was exiled for 20 years in Naples and he came back and he built this palace, Palazzo Strozzi, as a proof of his coming back. So these are a little bit the direction that have been guiding us since this experience. But as you know, contemporary art is not our only product. Let's say that we like to cook also our dishes, and we are still very keen in producing some of the most important old master show ever organized in the history of exhibition making. One of the recent great old master show was in, I don't know if you remember, in 2017, this exhibition devoted, the title was very general because the subtitle was better, actually was more precise, because actually this exhibition was about the late Maniera, the late mannerism, and was the first time ever that a major show was studying this period of of art around the second half of the 16th century, all the so-called artists of the studiolo, so the artists working for Francis II, and you can see in Palazzo Vecchio many great examples of that. And so it was another very brave decision to take, because if you go around the world, more or less the old master exhibitions are always about more or less the same 10, 12 artists. This is what we don't want to do, and we always try to organize the old master exhibition that has never been done, or could be pivotal or cornerstone in the art history study. Maybe some among you remember this room. This was the art historian dream. None of these altarpieces by Rosso, by Pontormo, by Bronzino, these three depositions, none of them was never land before that. We were able to have all the three of these incredible masterpieces. In this case, we also organized and sponsored a series of important restoration. And this chapel that we built inside Palazzo Strozzi was really a dream for all art historians. Really, here you can see the development of the Maniera, probably in the best way possible. And if you go to Santa Trinita, you can still see the chapel, Capponi, where the Pontormo is entirely restored by Palazzo Strozzi during the month of the exhibition of the Cinquecento in Firenze, because we want to give back when we ask for important loans, because we think that this exhibition have important effect, of course, on the cultural aspect, but also socially, economically. We want to give something back to the city or to the institution that help us to create this kind of event. Some other photos of the room. This was the restoration before and after. And voila. The same year, we had an exhibition that for us was very interesting, because an exhibition was able to put together old master and contemporary art. It was an exhibition about the contemporary artist, American artist, Bill Viola. Bill is one of the father of video art, an art which is quite recent, started around the beginning of the 70s. And very few people know that a very important center, small but very important center of production of video art in the 70s was in Florence. It was called Art 28, and there was a very eccentric lady who founded this center, and many artists all around from all the parts of the world were coming to learn how to make video art in Florence. One of them was Bill Viola. So it was very interesting for us to show to our publics how the Renaissance iconography, imagery, masterpieces were fundamental for Bill for creating his language into the video art. So for the first time ever, we put together the video by Bill Viola, very often inspired by classical imagery, classical themes, and the masterpieces of 15th, 16th century, which actually 40 years before, 45 years before, inspired the artist to follow this direction. So we have this incredible comparison with Masolino da Panicale. This was just a video. With Pontormo again. This Pontormo from Carmignano, also this painting was restored by the Fondazione Palazzo Strozzi, was in a great dialogue with a video by Bill. You can see that this we saw it already. And voila. I just showing some highlights of our program. Of course, we organized much more exhibition. I'm just showing you the things that I think are more relevant for me, for my experience. And for sure, one of the craziest things I ever done in my life was to organize this exhibition of Karsten Höller in the courtyard of Palazzo Strozzi and in the basement of the palace in the Strozzi. This was really crazy because you can imagine we are in a palace where we can even put a clue in the wall, but we were able to build two slides, big toboggan, 30 meters high, intertwined, and perfectly self-standing, not even touching the palace. That was, in terms of engineering, was for sure a great masterpiece. It was very spectacular. As you know, Carsten Höller is an artist who likes to challenge the behavior of people in cultural places. Of course, with this kind of slides, I think he realized his point, you know. But this installation was much more profound. That was not just a big fun game. Actually, Carsten associated in this project with a scientist, digital neuroscience, Stefano Mancuso, a professor of the University of Florence. And basically, Stefano studies the intelligence of the plants. And apparently, plants are very intelligent, often more intelligent than human beings, Stefano said. And so, all these slides was part, these two slides, was part of a big experiment realized in collaboration with the University of Florence. As an experiment involved the palace, the slides, the people, of course, more than 80,000 people slide down this incredible toboggan, and hundreds of thousands of plants, of beings. So basically what's happened? We provided to the sliders with one of these plants that you can see on this. And so they were sliding, the people were sliding, holding in their hands the plant. And it's fun, actually, yeah. When they arrived at the end of the slide, they were invited to go down in the Strozzina with the plant, where we installed a real laboratory with an equipe of real scientists, with all the top-notch equipment, the last really research, very technological. And basically, these people were analyzing the plants. The plants were analyzed before going down to the slide with the people, and then after. And so this machine were able to tell us that the parameter of the plant changed after this experience. So basically, this was a real experiment proving that the emotion of the people have an effect on the plant. The results were published in a scientific magazine. I don't know if the results are really groundbreaking. Basically, I try to synthesize very well. The plants prefer not to slide. And if ever they have to slide, they prefer to slide by themselves. Because we also pull down the plants on a small chariot or small car, and also we prove the parameters. And what they really don't like is to slide with people. So if you ever happen to you to slide with a plant, so try to be careful and respectful with probably the plant is not enjoying the experience. This was another great moment for us, the Marina Abramovic show, 2018, 2019. Why? Well, because Marina Abramovic, as you know, is one of the godmother of performance art. We can say that Marina invented the performance art back at the beginning of the 70s. Marina had a great relationship with our country. In Italy, especially, traveled a lot during the 70s. And for us was a good opportunity to create an unprecedented show about performance art. So this exhibition basically was about displaying some of the most important performance by Marina Abramovic. Marina Abramovic couldn't perform anymore this kind of performance. So we invited about 40 performers trained by Marina Abramovic. It's a very hard training, by the way. They have to meditate for hours, to fast for weeks, to swim in cold water. No, it's not a yoga retreat. No, it's very tough. It's very tough. And maybe basically these people were trained to reperform the performance by Marina Grandi. So Marina was a kind of director, like a movie director. And the entire Palazzo Strozzi became, for 4 months, a kind of living theater, where in each room we have this reperformance going on and on, performed by many different artists, actors, performers. And this was really a way of creating a living exhibition, changing really day by day. We also had, of course, installation, videos, and other work by the artists. One of the most incredible performances was this one, called Room with an Ocean View, where the performer, this poor girl with the orange dress, she had to live 24 hours a day for 12 days in this kind of mini flat, which is not an Airbnb that you can find here around, but actually was an installation by Marina Abramovic, and Marina, at the beginning of 2003, actually she did this performance. So basically she lived for 12 days, fasting, only drinking water, and sleeping, meditating, and this is the bathroom, of course, doing what she had to do, in front of the people. So it's a very, as you can imagine, tough, difficult performance. And the actor, the performer, of course, she was under surveillance of doctors, of a team of nurse, etc., every day, because of course it could be also very, very dangerous. And Marina herself, of course, she was with us to credit this incredible achievement by this performer. So I go, change many topics. Another exhibition that I want to underline for its importance, again, talking about All Master Show was the exhibition of Verrocchio, which was in 2019. And was the first exhibition ever on the Master of Leonardo. That sounds crazy, but actually that was the case. And was an exhibition show that 2019 was the year of Leonardo, the 500th anniversary of his death. And the same year we had at the Louvre the big retrospective of Leonardo and so on. But we wanted to be more original and to show what was creating Leonardo, this idea of this multitasking genius. And the exhibition of Verrocchio, where we displayed many works by the young Leonardo in the workshop of Verrocchio, was a really good way to show the beginning of this incredible phenomenon, this great genius who changed the rule of art and science in the 16th century. And this was an amazing exhibition, spanning from sculpture, drawing, painting, where we also had a very important discovery for art history, which was discussed a lot, and is still discussed. It's read in many articles, essays, and also in the last catalogue, Raisonné of the Artist by Carmen Bauer. I mean, this terracotta sculpture, which is for us was the last show in the exhibition, which was attributed by Professor Cagliotti, that probably you know his name, is professor of the Scuola Normale of Pisa, one of the most important scholars in Italian 15th century sculpture. And Professor Cagliotti attributed this terracotta to the young Leonardo. So this sculpture was displayed alongside a big selection of drapery by Leonardo. You know that Leonardo was a great draftsman of draperies, and was a very, very important moment as a scholar. I can say that it was very interesting. The entire art world was speaking about this comparison. It was a really, very interesting for us. I keep going in our recent program. Sometimes you remember some of the things, but this was an exhibition by Tomás Saraceno. I wanted to show this slide because of what I said at the beginning. We often want to invite artists able to say something about our world, the reality we are living, the problem, the issues we are facing every day. And Tomás, Argentinian artist, is really considered one kind of opinion leader worldwide about pollution problems. And so we spoke with our way about politics, about problem of migration. With Carsten, we wanted to think about our relationship with nature. With Tomás, we spoke about air. The title of the exhibition was Aria. So how the air today is important. What do we breathe? Is air a political or a social issue? And so we were going through the exhibition, challenging this topic. Of course, speaking about the pollution and the problem of the air today, also trying to give in some utopical but scientifically proved solution. The big installation that you can see now in this slide, I don't know if you remember, it was just 4 years ago, was these big 3 balls floating in the courtyard. And they were not just a big Christmas ball, actually. No. They are floating machines. Tommaso trained and worked at the NASA for some years, and also in other aeronautical study center around the world. And he developed some experiments using these kind of materials. Basically, these spheres can float in the atmosphere, moving around and changing the height of the flight according to the temperature and to the excursion between the sun in the day and the night. So basically, when the Earth releases the heat of the day, they go up. And during the day, they go down when the heat comes from the sun. So basically, they are propelled by the heat of the sun. Just that. Not even, but yeah, by the heat of the sun. And Thomas is trying to provoke in us some thoughts, some reflection about how we can invent some alternative way of flying, of moving around, of traveling. Because, of course, as you can imagine, these floating machines, they don't pollute. They just go around thanks to this change of temperature inside themselves. And he also developed program. Also, we had an application about that you can calculate how long does it take if you go with one of these to go, I don't know, from Florence to London, and which is the path. Of course, it's not straight like a jet. And so it was a way to challenge the people about an alternative way of course, we are talking about utopistic reflection, but it was a very interesting for our public to think about that through the lens, of course, of the art. Show you other slide of inside the exhibition. Yes, another big topic of discussion in this exhibition. In a way, they were collaborator of the artist himself, the spiders. In Palazzo Strozzi, we had hundreds of huge spider webs, some of them bigger than this room, in big cases of glass, you can see. And these were kind of spectacular utopistic architecture that Thomas produced, making different species of spider collaborate together. Because, as you know, each spider has its own way of net. And so Thomas was able to create this net as a metaphor for futuristic way of conceiving our cities, our way of living, and of course, as a way to prove how different species can collaborate for a bigger project. Then the exhibition was also a starting point to discover the incredible skills of spiders. I was amazed because I'm a little bit scared by spiders, but I I was amazed to see that spiders can dive into water. They can create, not all the spiders. There are a certain type of spider can create a kind of bubble and to dive into water into this bubble to chase some insect. They can fly for thousands of miles just with their net, using their net like a kind of wing, a kind of kite. So it was very incredible to discover all these things. Again, thanks to contemporary art, thanks to Tommaso Saraceno, and using all these elements to think about our life, what we are, what we can do in our world in the future. Show you other things. Now I go a little bit quicker because I've been speaking for more than 45 minutes, and I know that I have to be not too boring tonight. Now I want just to say a few words about this installation. This was an installation by an Italian artist, was not so famous, Marinella Senatore, but it's the chronology of this show which is important. This happened in the winter 2020. So actually in the darkest moment of the pandemic, and all the museums were closed, and Florence was like a ghost city, as some of you remember. Nothing was, there was no light in the city, or the shops, the window shops were closed. And there we realized how important could be a cultural institution. Many of our publics were, especially the most fragile public, we work a lot with old people, with people affected with diseases such as Alzheimer, Parkinson, autism. We work with families in critical situations, etc. And we realized how we were important in their life. We couldn't work with them more, how Palazzo Strozzi could be a center, an important part of their life. So we wanted to give a sign, something that was visible, like a pulsing heart in the center of the city, in this very dark time of our life. And so we with these artists, with these young artists, we created this installation full of light as a sign that the culture was not dead, and we were still working. You know, it was a moment where everybody was making things digitally, you know, and we wanted to show that the physical experience of art was not over, of course. And this was for the very few Florentine walking around in this moment. It became this courtyard, our courtyard, which was never closed, became a kind of point just to meet, to walk the dog, just to go and see that there was something happening. And of course, thanks to the digital strategy, we were able to connect the most fragile public to the artist herself, who organized digitally some very nice workshop to engage this audience. So I show you that not just for artistic importance, but more to show you the social role of a cultural institution, which could be important. Also, this installation has something to do with these recent dark times. I don't know if you remember this great installation on the facade by JR, a kind of trompe-l'oeil, so an installation that was misleading and confusing our senses, creating this kind of hole in the wall of Palazzo Strozzi. It was a time where all the cultural institutions were closed. It was a little bit strange because at the time we had the shops open, many things were open, but theater, cinema, museum must be shut. So with this great artist, French artist, JR, street artist, we wanted to say something about that. And JR invented this idea. He broke, thank God, only metaphorically, the walls of the palazzo, metaphorically open the institution to the public. And this was another great attempt for us, and great success. Basically, worldwide, all the information was speaking about the installation. I remember we were on the front page of the CNN online for 1 week. It was really worldwide. This image became the manifesto of the situation of cultural institutions in this moment. I don't know if you remember Jeff Koons. This was another great show, the biggest show ever in Italy, and the first of the great, one of the greatest master of contemporary art. In this moment, we needed some cheerful artists, and I think that Jeff was is a very profound and conceptual artist, but also very happy imagery of youth, childhood, etc. I go a little bit quick. I just want to say some words of the most recent exhibitions, such as Donatello, the last Old Master show that we had at Palazzo Strozzi, just just 2 years ago, already 2 years ago. Oh my God. Yesterday, wow, we became old so quick. And probably the exhibition I preferred among all the exhibitions we organized recently, because it was really a dream for me make true, because I always dreamt about an exhibition on Donatello, the master of the master, the real father. Is not a metaphor, it's just an expression. It's really the father of the Renaissance, because the art is more influential of all the times, probably. All the artists, Michelangelo, everybody copied Donatello. And this show was just unbelievable. We won the award of the best exhibition worldwide. This was not the first time. And yeah, thanks to this exhibition, we were able to put together different institutions around the world, such as the Victoria and Albert Museum in London, the State Museum in Berlin, and of course the Bargello here in Florence. To have a kind of touring exhibition in Florence was much bigger. In London and Berlin, they had about 1/4 of the show, but was still an incredible show, also in London and in Berlin. And we were able also to push back to the Renaissance institution like the V&A. As you know, is one of the best sculpture museums in the world, but they are more, their exhibition program is more into design, into fashion, and other kind of topics. And so this also was very important for their programming, for their identity. And well, I just show you some images. We were able to organize incredible campaign of restoration, again, in Tuscany, especially in Siena and many other places around Tuscany. Another very interesting show, the same year, we had this revolutionary Renaissance artist, and we wanted to show some revolution in art in a more contemporary way. What was happening about artists using new technologies? And we were forerunners, because we were speaking about artificial intelligence in 2022, where now we are dealing with that. If you are using artificial intelligence, and of course, it's something that is going to change our life really much in the next future. And so we had this exhibition about the new frontiers of digital art, which were showing a new revolution in art happening. And for instance, this big installation in the courtyard with this wall of was kind of waterfall of colors coming down from and up from this in this big screen, very realistically. They look like real waterfall of color, was produced by an artificial intelligence, which was mixing up this color starting from the colors used by artists in 15th century, so the time is not that. So we were able to bridging, let's say like that, the Renaissance of Donatello and the digital art. So as you can see, let's say that every time we try to innovate, we dare to follow new paths and open new frontiers in the exhibition making. Maybe you remember recently Olafur Eliasson, another great show for us, great especially because Olafur, one of the best living artists today, he wanted to use the palace as a tool to create his art, an art made only by shadows and light, reflections, and our perceptions. So Olafur wanted really to use our eyes and our perception of the palazzo as a tool for making art, like you can see in this installation, which was made by the windows, the shadows, and the projection of the windows, and just some colored light. So the Palazzo became like a theater of shadows, and it was a very, very poetical show. I don't know if you visited it. It was just 1 year and a half ago. And voila, now we are really in recent time. Sunday, finished Anish Kapoor, and it was another great contemporary art show for us, one of the leading living sculpture. Anish is not only a sculptor, but this show was focusing on Anish as a sculptor, and a sculptor who was able to change the perception of sculpture in our times. And this exhibition was all about the practice of Anish as a sculptor, and with many connections with the Renaissance tradition, including the materials such as the wax, which was, as you know, used especially in Florence as a tool for sculpting. And there was an exhibition which wanted to, again, to challenge our senses. The title, Untrue, Unreal, was actually related to the experience that we had in front of this installation, which were challenging our senses, so our way of seeing the reality. And Anish wanted to link this kind of research to the time we are living, where we don't know what is true and what is not true. We don't know which information we can trust and what we cannot trust. So he wanted us to think about how we can see the reality. And many of these words were really making our senses confused. So it was, again, another exhibition which wanted to talk about our present. So 57 minutes. Simon. Coming next. Okay. Coming next. We are in February. So in 1 month, we have another great living artist, Ansel Kiefer, a German artist. You know, I cannot tell you a lot about that because I want to spoil the surprise. It's an exhibition entirely produced for Palazzo Strozzi, so you will see only new works. So it's another great thing to have that in Florence. And the theme, the central theme of the show is about the fallen angels, which is a metaphor of human condition, of course. It's a very poetical and deep and profound show. You will see, I don't know if you are familiar with the work of Ansel Kiefer, but we are talking about giant works, sculpture, paintings, vitrine, etc., with this very strong use of material. You will see, it's quite shocking. And then in the fall, we have a more classical show because it's a modern art show. We're talking about Ellen Frankenthaler, one of the, you know, this is very important for us to organize more exhibition about female artists. We had in the past so far a rich program about female artists. And Ellen Frankenthaler was one of the leading figures of the abstract expressionist movement. So New York between the 50s, the 70s, the 80s, etc. 60s also, of course. And she was working with Rothko, with Pollock, with her husband, who was Robert Motherwell, and many other great leading figures of abstract expressionists. But of course, unfortunately, for a very stupid reason linked to our society, Ellen Frankenthaler and many other female artists of this movement were not studied, collected, displayed in museum enough, just because they were female. And so what now worldwide, any museum institution, collectors, galleries, were trying to rediscover these very important figures, which were pivotal, really central in this movement, but unfortunately not enough study. So this is, for us, is important to create this kind of exhibition. You will see, you will discover, if you don't know her, really a great genius of abstract painting around mid-century. Now is over.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And get some lights on so we can see the audience. Yeah, see what's going on. And then I rather like the found poem at the top of the screen. Not hearing anything, turn up volume. And the artificial intelligence is throwing all sorts of strange ideas, and I thought it somehow related to Arturo's speech that you've been turning up the volume of contemporary creativity in Florence in a really important way.
Thank you.
And I've been hearing lots, so thank you for that. And listening to the talk, it was just reminding me of all those great shows which I've been enjoying the last 5 years I've been living here. So keep it coming. Yeah,
we try.
So as always, we'll now do the Q&A, and the rules are the same. If you're in the room and want to ask a question or make a comment, put your hand up and I'll bring you the microphone so the people on the Zoom can hear. And if you're on the Zoom, you can put something in the comments and I'll read it up on your behalf. Or if you're feeling bold and want to talk to us, just unmute and we'll hear you in the room. So who would like to go first? Any thoughts coming from the room from that survey?
Or you just want to have a glass of wine? Okay.
Buonasera da una conterranea. So what's the starting point? Is it the artist or the theme?
It's like the chicken and the egg, right? Yeah. Well, listen, I think it's really both the things together. We first of all, we plan with big advance. Now I'm working for exhibition. I like this. Listen. Now I'm working on exhibition that will happen in 2027. So, we work 4 or 5 years in advance. So we try to build a consistent program. So I just show you some of some exhibition that we did recently, but we try to have a good rhythm between contemporary, modern, and old master. Also a good sense, a good proportion about themes, thematics, etc. So there is let's say, a bigger picture that we try to see when we choose to work with an artist. At the beginning, when we started this contemporary art string of exhibition, it was probably more difficult because, as I told you at the beginning, in Florence, there was no reputation about contemporary art. There was no history about contemporary art. So the artists could be a little bit reluctant to display, because we are not just asking them to display a piece, one work, one painting, one room. We were talking about organizing some of the biggest exhibition they ever done in their career. So, it was a big challenge. And now is no longer the case. Now, actually, I'm receiving from some very big artists calls that they would like to work with us. So now it's very easy. Now it's very easy. At the beginning, it was a little bit harder, but as I told you at the beginning of this speech, I had great partners that they were very brave. They really wanted to change this game. So this is what they did. Yeah.
How did you measure the plants' reactions?
I was not one of the scientists doing that, but as I said, there was all this group of professors. They had this kind of microscope and other kind of machines. So they put the plant inside. There was also a machine like a blender, something like that. I don't know the name. And basically, they were testing the parameter of the chlorophyll, chlorophyll, I think, chlorophyll, and other parameter of the in the leaves and in the branch. So I don't know more than that. I was more a believer in this case than yeah.
So it's a wonderful experiment and a beautiful fusion between.
Think about that. We had an experiment involving 80,000 people. There is no pharmacy industry that have 80,000 guinea pigs, human guinea pigs. That's also a sign of the power of museum.
Thank you very much. That was wonderful. I was one of the people that wrote that thing down on the, with a plant in my lap. Right. We moved here in 2015, so I've seen all of this happen.
We moved together. Yeah. At the same time.
And they're some of the most spectacular shows we've ever seen.
Okay.
How often do the artists that you bring in or the shows that you create, you want to engage with the building, but you can't engage with the building because itself is a piece of art? I mean, how often do the artists want to take liberties that you can't let them?
This is of course, it depends on the mind of the artist. Somebody like Anish Kapoor for instance, he didn't like the symmetry of Palazzo Strozzi, this shape, this purity, and he used it as a kind of, I wouldn't say enemy, but not for sure not an ally. Sometimes he wanted to break this symmetry. So if you visited the show, you saw how some rooms were shut, and he wanted to show how he pierced the floors with this of course not really, but just with his culture, etc. Other artists like Olafur Eliasson really was amazed by this lightness, this symmetry, and also the austerity of the place, and they just wanted to use light and shadow to underline this and to make the people watching again this structure through their senses, also through their traces, sometimes their shadows, something in a very light and subtle way, reflections, etc. Some artists, they just love the grand environment, and which is a great showcase for their work. So it really depends on the art. Somebody like Ai Weiwei was more thinking about the symbol of Palazzo Strozzi rather than the architecture, a symbol of what is the humanistic culture, which is basis of the European values, of the values that in theory should lead our democracies. So it was a way for challenging these values toward the migration crisis in this moment. Somebody like Thomas Saraceno uses the humanistic values in terms of anthropocentric values, that they put the man in the center, and challenging them, saying, listen, you put the man in the center, we have pollution, we have the planet destroyed, so I put in the center a new vehicle for traveling in a sustainable way. And so, of course, there was also the echo about the flying machine of Leonardo, bring to the plane and jet, etc. And he put another flying machine, which is totally carbon free. So, depends really on the art. There are many ways of that, of course. Yeah.
That was a great talk, and I hope this next question doesn't put you too much on the spot, but I moved here from Washington, D.C. and East Coast and all that good stuff. I have noticed that when I first got here, wonderful museums like the Vecchio, PT, etc., they put so much art on the walls, your eyes glaze over after the first half an hour. There's very little explanation. And then there's the Strozzi, which is incredibly well curated in the sense that the viewer comes away understanding what they're looking at, what the connection is from this piece to this piece to this piece, what the connection of the whole is to a much bigger picture. My question is, do you think, as you look forward the future of the Strozzi and the presence of all these magnificent other exhibits and museums here, that you guys will be the leaders of change with, for example, Palazzo Vecchio or PT, so that their exhibitions will become a little more accessible as opposed to raised eyeballs?
Accessibility is the key word, of course, and this is, we work every day keeping this word in mind, because in Italy, sometimes this is a little bit an Italian problem, especially Florentine problem. We give it for granted because there is a way, especially for scholars, they've grown up in a certain environment. So we give for granted that the public knows something or can appreciate something. Of course, this is stupid and fake, because it depends where you go in the world. You can find many different cultures, many different people, etc. I've been trained in an international environment where we have to face very different publics, and so we have to make things accessible. That means very easy to explain things to people. So that is really our work. What I hope that our exhibition could be an example for, if they are good, of course, not if they are bad, to other institutions. And at the same time, we try to collaborate as much as we can with many of them. The Rocchi and Donatello were organized with the Museo del Bargello, for instance. So at the same time, you had a chapter of the exhibitions of the two exhibitions inside the Bargello. You see, so we try to create itineraries in town that, in a way that when you finish the exhibition Palazzo Strozzi, you have kind of itinerary to follow, which is linked more or less, depends on the show, of course, to what we have done. So in a way, we try to involve, to engage the city. Then, of course, museums and exhibition spaces they are different things. They are different institutions. But no, I understand what you say. I think it's an Italian problem more than that. They think about the public, no? Okay, but this is so chic. Let me say, yeah, right. Yeah, you know, this is also an Italian problem. Why? Because some places like Pitti, same Chantilly, are collections, are not just institutions. So there is an I know. Yeah, you know, the Uffizi changed many times the display, but like Palazzo Pitti, we change a little bit less from the original display. Of course, these places are historical collections, so they want to leave the sense, a trace at least of what they have been in the last centuries. Private spaces, not public spaces. So of course, in an American museum, we don't have this problem because the buildings they were made to be public, so there is another idea about this space. So in Italy, it's difficult because you have to keep together the history of the places and, of course, the needs of the public. But I totally agree with you. Totally agree with you on 100%. 99% of Italian museums have bad labels, no explanation, bad panels, no indication where to go. You get lost. Sometimes the bathroom don't work, the lift don't work, the no wheelchair access. No, there are many. This is also related because often we speak about old buildings, so you know. No, but I totally agree. You are right. We can say, yeah. Oh, you're back.
Well, I tried to ask a question on
Okay.
Zoom, but they wouldn't unmute me. I would say,
We cannot mute you here now.
no, but I do have a question because you, well, it's actually two. So, but the first one is your building is obviously, you can't move things around. You've got, so how do you deal with Anish Kapoor's wax on the wall?
There was a trick.
Ah. So, and the second question is the collaboration between the museums has obviously worked sometimes, but it's not easy.
No.
I mean, I think the Donatello was a labor of love.
Yeah.
Getting it to work. Okay.
Now, collaboration are never easy because, of course, we are dealing with human beings, and you know, human beings are never easy. But if there is a purpose, you know, human beings can do great stuff together. So I believe in collaboration. And as an institution without a collection, because we don't have a collection, we are just an empty space, I need this collaboration. I need like food, like breathing. So yes, what we have is only good ideas, sometimes, not always. And so we try to use these ideas to create big endeavor, big projects, to put together many institutions. Sometimes we are talking about hundreds of lenders for an exhibition worldwide, etc. So we have to put many people together, believing in a project, because at the end of the day, museum directors are very often art historians. So they understand the art historical reasons of our exhibitions, of our project, and they want, if they can, they want to support. I'm trying to be anthropologically optimistic. Yes, it helps. Then about the first question, which I don't remember, it was the wax. Basically, for the slides, for all these big installations, we have to be very careful because we like to play, we like to dare, we like to be crazy, but of course we have to, first of all, to conserve, respect the building. And so we have a very good team of technicians, engineers that we work with them with big advance to create solutions to avoid any problem with the building. We study the weight, we study all the possible dangers, and also all the possible, how you say, damage of materials, such as the wax. In the case of the wax, this big piece of wax, wagon of wax going through the door, yes, it was making a mess around this door, but this door actually was covered by something like a Hollywood movie trick, like a material that was reproducing the Pietra Serena in a perfect way, but actually was covered. Yeah, okay. So it looks real, but it was not. So there is always a prestige trick behind it. Yeah.
A few comments on the chat, on the Zoom. Roslo and Sophia Maltsov and Patricia Thomas. It's all fan mail. Super lecture, fabulous exhibitions. Great, grazie. Favorite was my hero. So you got fans out there, Arturo. And then Diane Archibald's come in from Canada saying difference in exhibiting art in Italy is to a North America approach. In Italy, art, museums, architecture are an integral way of life that the Italians grew up with. In North America, individual works are separated and exhibited, often out of context. So that's
Yeah, more or less what I said.
okay.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
On that? Hello, that was fantastic. I just wanted to know, when you took all the boarding down, was anything surprising or interesting that you found in the fabric of the building?
Yeah, first of all, we rediscovered these big fireplaces, which were totally, they were totally oblivion about them. And nobody remembered those anymore. Yes, then, this was the major rediscovery in a way. But I can tell you, to see again the palace with all these windows open was really magical, because there is a great light. This palace it's really a masterpiece by Renaissance architecture. And was great to bring back to the public. Yeah.
I know that Cyrus put up the link for the Zoomers who want to make your donations. So grateful that you could do that. Any more in the room, or indeed on the Zoom? I like hearing voices from around. Great to hear you, Harry. Here we are. Sorry. I'll get you the microphone, John.
The people who sponsored the lecture tonight, I spoke to them just as the lecture started, and they said thank you. And they're very sorry they can't be here, but she's not well at the moment.
Oh, sorry.
And they will be back, and we'll make a connection.
I hope to meet them. We'll be
Yes.
Thank you very much.
So Angela and Richard Camber, who moved to Florence about 18 months ago and are now important part of our community.
Okay.
So haste you back, you two, if you're listening. Thank you.
Grazie.
Which is quite a good note to end on, unless anyone has got anything they very much want to contribute. Thank you, Zoomers. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Arturo. And now it's Ginori wine. Sorry, no wine for Zoomers. Have one more.